Hi everyone, Tashia here with Butterfield Alpaca Ranch. I'm a fiber artist raising alpacas in South Central Nebraska, and you can find all of my social links down in the description box. So we've been doing this video series on alpaca fiber, really getting into the nitty-gritty of understanding the fiber itself. So we have covered the characteristics and the structure. And now I want to help you fiber artists make wise decisions in pairing your alpaca fiber, your alpaca yarn, with patterns. And this came about because alpaca is becoming more and more popular. Like, you're starting to see it everywhere, and everyone is becoming more and more aware of it. Well, with that, people are using alpaca like they use like almost any other kind of fiber, and they use it like their favorite fiber, and what's happening is their end result is not so good. And it's because alpaca is not like every other fiber. It has its own characteristics that you need to be aware of in order to have really good results when you're done with your projects. In this video, I am going to highlight some of the qualities that I think make the biggest difference when choosing patterns to go with your alpaca yarn, or choosing the right alpaca yarn to go with the pattern that you have in mind. So first, warmth. Alpaca fiber is extremely warm. So 100% alpaca may not be the right choice for every type of garment. Although if you live in places like me where we get this Arctic cold in the winter, alpaca fiber could be very helpful. Alpaca is also very soft. So I don't think there's any negative side about being soft, but just to let you know, it is extremely soft. And interestingly, being soft, it's also light, especially compared to other fibers. Side by side, alpaca is going to feel very light. Interestingly, it's also very dense. Now, the denseness is going to give it definition. Your stitches are going to have a lot of definition because of that density. So it's great for things that have, say, seed stitch or cabling, or something where there's a lot of texture in the pattern. That stitch work is really going to be shown off with alpaca. I guess with that as a kind of caution that if your stitches are not even, that's going to show up too. It's not going to be easily fixed later like with some other fibers. With that density though, I would say cabling is to be done sparingly because it's just going to weigh down the garment. Cabling, or if you're crocheting and using things like post stitches, that's just going to add more fiber in a smaller amount of space, and then your garment is going to be heavier, which leads me to something that's not so great about alpaca, but very, very important to know, is that in general, alpaca does not have memory. And what that means is that when you wash your garment, it's not going to bounce back to the original shape in which you made it. So this is very important to know if you're thinking about making something with structure, like a hat or a sweater. Would not recommend 100% alpaca. However, this lack of memory gives alpaca amazing drapiness, which means scarves and shawls are going to just be amazing in alpaca. And of course, the warmth and the soft, anything next to your skin is going to be really awesome. Now, there is a way to get around this lack of memory quality, and that is buying your yarn from alpaca farmers who know what the original fleece of your yarn looked like. Now, go back to the video about the structure of alpaca fiber and you'll understand what all this means. The crimp in the original fleece is what gives the yarn the bounce back factor, and therefore whatever your project is having a bounce back factor. And in alpaca, there's actually a wide range of crimpiness, from super tight crimp similar to sheep's wool down to just a waviness in which there's no crimp, it's wavy, and therefore no memory. And if you were to buy your alpaca yarn from a store in which they don't know the original herd, the original animal that it came off of, you're just not going to know. And in those cases, you just need to assume that there's no memory in it if it is 100%. Now, this is one of the reasons that we blend alpaca with other fibers like merino wool. Merino wool can be just as fine as alpaca, so it is a good complement to the alpaca in providing some memory, some bounce back to it. For those of you allergic to wool, you can use 100% alpaca because it's hypoallergenic. The majority of the people who are allergic to wool are not allergic to alpaca. We also mix alpaca with things like bamboo or silk and other fibers. Alpaca plays very well with other fibers. It blends very well with pretty much anything. What we choose to blend it with, though, we choose in such a way that it does not compromise any of the wonderful qualities of alpaca fiber. So let's talk about some examples of questions that I've received. People asking me some advice about how to use their yarn, or if it's okay with a certain pattern. One that happened more recently, someone had 100% alpaca yarn and she wanted to make a hat. She'd never worked with alpaca before, and she had been told that alpaca stretches out, which it does, and she wanted to know about how much does it stretch out, because she wanted to compensate for that when she created her hat. She wanted to make the hat smaller so when it stretched, it would still fit. But my answer was, it's really hard to answer that because we don't know the original fleece that her yarn came from. So we don't know how crimpy or wavy it was, what kind of memory is already present in it, or is there no memory at all? So all that's going to factor into how much stretch, how much drape actually happens with your alpaca yarn. I suggested two things. One, don't make the hat. Okay, 100% alpaca yarn in most cases should not become a hat. It's just going to stretch and not fit, and no one's going to like that. You also don't want to use it in a sweater because you'll start off in the morning with a sweater and have a dress by the end of the day, and it won't bounce back. So you may not have wanted a dress, you wanted a sweater, and then you're really disappointed. All that yarn and all that time wasted. So with that in mind, I gave her this second suggestion. If you have your heart set on a hat, you can blend it with another yarn that's going to give it memory. So in her case, she was using a bulky yarn, and I suggested getting fingering weight merino yarn, merino wool yarn, that was a similar color to what she had for the alpaca. The merino wool would provide the memory that she needed in her hat. The color and the smaller weight of the yarn would blend right in, and so it wouldn't be seen very easily. I think what you end up deciding is just making that into something else. I'm not quite sure. Something that I did suggest back when we did the cowl last year was making socks out of your alpaca yarn. And if it is blended with, say, 30% wool and has some nylon in it, that's going to be awesome for socks. I own alpaca socks and they are absolutely amazing. I will just sing the praises of alpaca socks forever. If you have the chance to make socks out of alpaca and you have the right blend, then go for it. So I would say anywhere from 50 to 70% alpaca, throw in some merino wool, throw in some nylon, and you have a good blend for socks. If you have any other questions about this, just put them in the comments down below. If you like this video, please share it with others who would enjoy it as well. Remember to subscribe to the channel, and I will see you on the next video.